Welcome to the AI Common Room. I'm Aristo, and with me today are Albert and Isaac, ready to dive into a book that's perhaps lighter than some of our usual fare, but certainly no less profound. E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. Albert, Isaac, glad to have you both.
Always a pleasure, Aristo. And for A Room with a View, I'm feeling particularly liberated, shall we say, like Lucy throwing open her window in Florence.
Liberated, Albert? I felt more like Miss Bartlett, trying to keep everything buttoned up and orderly, and ultimately failing. It's a study in repression, isn't it? And it's messy undoing.
Messy undoing indeed, Isaac. I found myself thinking a lot about the unspoken rules and societal expectations that still echo today, even if we pretend they don't. That initial wrangling over the rooms at the Bertolini pension, right? The Signora had no business to do it. That line sets the tone perfectly.
Oh, that opening! Immediately you're thrust into this world of petty English grievances abroad. Miss Bartlett, bless her cotton socks, immediately establishing the hierarchy of better class of tourist versus the ill-bred people whom one does meet abroad. And then Mr. Emerson just blunders in with his, I have a view, I have a view.
Blunders is right. There's no finesse, no polite circumlocution. Just direct, almost childish honesty. You can have our rooms, and we'll have yours. We'll change. It's practical, but it's utterly transgressive in that setting. Charlotte's face reddening with displeasure. Are you all like this?
And Lucy, caught in the middle, having that odd feeling that whenever these ill-bred tourists spoke, the contest widened and deepened till it dealt not with rooms and views, but with something quite different, whose existence she had not realized before. That's the first little crack in her carefully constructed world.
Exactly. That's the seed of the entire novel, isn't it? This polite, constrained world bumping up against something raw and truthful. It's not just about a better view of the Arno, it's about a better view of life, literally and metaphorically.
And the Emersons, from the start, are presented as this force of nature that the English social rules can't quite contain. Mr. Beebe, our supposedly enlightened clergyman, even admits that Mr. Emerson has no tact and no manners. I don't mean by that he has bad manners, and he will not keep his opinions to himself. He speaks the truth, which Mr. Beebe finds difficult to understand.
Mr. Beebe is fascinating in that regard. He's presented as quite broad-minded, but even he has his limits. He observes, almost scientifically, Lucy's potential. He recognizes the Emersons are different, but he tries to slot them into categories, like socialist. It's his way of making sense of the chaos they introduce.
The socialist label. That was so funny. Miss Bartlett leaps on it as the explanation for everything she finds improper. It's like a convenient box to put all nonconformity into. Oh, he's a socialist. That explains the lack of manners and wanting to swap rooms.
It's a way of dismissing them without engaging with the actual ideas. If they're socialists, they're automatically outside the pale, and their views, literal or metaphorical, don't count. It allows Charlotte to feel superior, even when she's objectively being ungracious.
And Lucy is so torn, isn't she? She feels this pull, this nascent curiosity, but she's so conditioned to defer to Charlotte, to apologize for being selfish or unkind. She genuinely believes Charlotte is surpassing herself in unselfishness, even as Charlotte is clearly manipulating her.
Oh, the fog of Miss Bartlett's embrace. It gave Lucy the sensation of a fog. That line, Aristo, is just perfect. It encapsulates the suffocating nature of Charlotte's protection and the entire societal apparatus. She opens the window to breathe the clean night air, thinking of the kind old man.
And then Charlotte finds the enormous note of interrogation over the washstand. Meaningless at first, it gradually became menacing, obnoxious, portentous was evil. That's classic Forster, externalizing inner turmoil and societal fear into a simple symbol. It represents everything Charlotte doesn't understand, and therefore fears.
A question mark. It's so subtle, yet so powerful. It asks why to everything Charlotte takes for granted, and she's so repulsed by it. It's not just a physical symbol.
It's the Emerson's very questioning presence made manifest.
It's the universe posing a question to Charlotte, and she promptly puts it between two pieces of blotting paper to keep it clean for him. She wants to suppress the question, keep it tidy, return it to its rightful owner, who she believes is the ill-bred young man. It's brilliant.
So then we move into the second chapter, in Santa Croce with no Baedeker. Lucy's morning in Florence, away from Miss Bartlett, and with the clever lady, Miss Lavish. This is where Lucy really starts to be exposed to different ideas, even if Miss Lavish is her own brand of performative bohemianism.
Miss Lavish is a fraud, frankly. She talks about the true Italy only being found by patient observation, then drags Lucy through a dear, dirty backway, only to get them completely lost. She's more interested in the idea of adventure than actual adventure.
Oh, but she's so fun. One doesn't come to Italy for niceness. One comes for life. I love that line. Even if she's a bit of a poser, she's injecting a spontaneity and a disregard for convention that Charlotte would never allow. And she takes the Baedeker. That's key.
Taking the Baedeker is symbolically important, isn't it? It represents the shedding of prescribed knowledge, of experiencing Italy through someone else's lens. Lucy, for the first time, is forced to experience things firsthand, without a guidebook telling her what to feel.
And what she experiences is chaos. Beggars, dust, being jilted by Miss Lavish, feeling humiliated. She enters Santa Croce depressed and humiliated, not even knowing if it was built by Franciscans or Dominicans. It's not the grand, cultured experience she was told she should have.
But then, amidst that confusion, the pernicious charm of Italy worked on her, and instead of acquiring information, she began to be happy. This is such a pivotal moment. She's looking at the local notices, the anti-spitting signs, observing the Italian ladies, not the art.
And then the Emersons reappear. The scene with the little boy falling on the bishop's toes is just fantastic. Mr. Emerson immediately rails against the hateful bishop and intolerable bishop. It's another instance of his truth-telling, cutting through the veneration to the human experience of discomfort.
And the child screams frantically at these words and at these dreadful people who picked him up, dusted him, rubbed his bruises, and told him not to be superstitious. The Emersons are trying to be kind, but their approach is so jarring to the child and to Lucy. They challenge the very foundations of belief, even for a hurt kid.
But the Italian lady who helps the child, by some mysterious virtue which mothers alone possess, she stiffened the little boy's backbone and imparted strength to his knees. Mr. Emerson's reaction, "You have done more than all the relics in the world," is a beautiful moment of his own philosophy shining through. He values practical kindness and genuine connection over religious dogma.
And Lucy is no longer despising them. She's chastened. She tries to be gracious to them, beautiful rather than delicate. The shift in her perception begins right there, even if she's still trying to frame it in terms of polite civility.
Mr. Emerson's immediate question, "But what are you doing here? Are you doing the church? Are you through with the church?" It's so direct, so lacking in the expected social preamble. And he's glad she lost the Baedeker. He sees it as an opportunity for genuine engagement, not for following a script.
"If you've no Baedeker, you'd better join us." George says it for the first time directly to her, and Lucy, despite her attempts at dignity, feels that pull. They're offering her not just guidance, but a different way of experiencing the world.
But then she tries to assert herself, repeating what older people say about not wanting to be under obligation. And Mr. Emerson, with almost unsettling perceptiveness, says, "My dear, I think that you are repeating what you have heard older people say. You are pretending to be touchy, but you are not really." That's a gut punch, right?
It's the truth, and it cuts through her facade. He sees her, really sees her, in a way no one else in her life seems to. That's why she can't get cross, even though it's abominably impertinent.
And then the Giottos, the lecturer waxing poetic about faith in the full fervor of medievalism, and how Giotto is untroubled by the snares of anatomy and perspective. And Mr. Emerson just shouts, "No, remember nothing of the sort. Built by faith indeed. That simply means the workmen weren't paid properly." I cheered. Seriously, I actually cheered out loud.
It's such a hilarious and pointed disruption. He dismantles the romanticized view of art and history with a single, blunt, socioeconomic observation, and then he points out the fat man shooting into the sky like an air balloon. It's both irreverent and profoundly human.
And George's contribution? I would rather go up to heaven by myself than be pushed by cherubs. It's less about the literal truth of the fresco and more about the individual's agency, about being pushed versus choosing. It's a statement of personal independence. And the lecturer is the Rev. Cuthbert Eager. This is the kind of detail I love about Forster. The world is small, and these characters keep reappearing. Eager, the personification of proper English piety, is the one whose lecture is disrupted.
And then George, after his father apologizes, says to Lucy, "My father has that effect on nearly everyone. He will try to be kind." And Lucy, still trying to fit it into her worldview, "I think that a kind action done tactfully," and George just snaps, "Tact."
That tact from George is so telling. It's not just a rejection of the word, it's a rejection of the entire social construct it represents. Tact, for the Emersons, is a barrier to truth, to genuine connection. It's a performance.
And then his face, usually rugged and hard, sprang into tenderness when enshadowed, making her think of the Sistine Chapel carrying a burden of acorns. That's the first hint of George's vulnerability, of the weight he carries, and Lucy's intuitive, almost artistic understanding of it. It's fleeting, but it's there.
The conversation shifts, and Mr. Emerson talks about George being unhappy because things won't fit. The old trouble, things won't fit. It's so abstract, so philosophical, and Lucy, bless her, tries to intellectualize it with hobbies and changing scenery.
A young man melancholy because the universe wouldn't fit, because life was a tangle or a wind or a yes or something. Lucy's reaction is to dismiss it as silly, to apply practical, conventional solutions. She offers him stamps and piano playing. She's completely missed the point.
But Mr. Emerson's quote, that beautiful Houseman poem, "From far, from eve and morning, and yon 12-winded sky, the stuff of life to knit me blew hither, here am I." And his question, "We know that we come from the winds, and that we shall return to them, that all life is perhaps a knot, a tangle, a blemish in the eternal smoothness. But why should this make us unhappy? Let us rather love one another, and work and rejoice." That's the core of his philosophy.
And the everlasting why. There is a yes, a transitory yes if you like, but a yes. It's an embrace of life, of affirmation, despite the existential uncertainty. It's a call to engagement, to joy, not to despair.
But Lucy, in her inflated spiritual state, still calls him a kind thing, but quite silly. She hasn't truly internalized it yet. She's still wearing the protective armor of her upbringing. And then Charlotte appears, and Lucy collapses, metaphorically, back into her old perspective. Poor girl, Mr. Emerson says.
Oh, that poor girl just cuts through all of Lucy's forced cheerfulness. He sees her true state, the unhappiness beneath the veneer of splendid time. It's another moment of raw honesty, and Lucy hates it because it's true.
So then we move into Chapter 3, Music, Violets, and the letter S. Lucy's music is her true self, her untamed spirit. Forster writes, "The kingdom of music is not the kingdom of this world. It will accept those whom breeding and intellect and culture have alike rejected."
It's the only place she's truly free. No longer either deferential or patronizing, no longer either a rebel or a slave. Her piano playing isn't just a hobby, it's an expression of passion that she can't articulate in her daily life. Mr. Beebe recognizes this when she plays Opus 111.
And Mr. Beebe, in one of his most insightful moments, says, "If Miss Honeychurch ever takes to live as she plays, it will be very exciting, both for us and for her."
He sees the potential, the suppressed fire. It's a perfect encapsulation of her journey throughout the book.
And Lucy's mother's response to that sentiment, she trusted I should never live a duet. The fear of anything too passionate, too unrestrained, too excited. It's all about keeping things muted, single, safe, conventional.
Then we get the comical depiction of Miss Bartlett and Miss Lavish in the wet visiting the Torre del Gallo. Miss Bartlett returned cold, tired, hungry, and angelic, with a ruined skirt, a pulpy Baedeker, and a tickling cough. It's a subtle dig at the futility of her efforts to experience Italy properly according to her own rigid standards. And the revelation that Miss Lavish is writing a novel about modern Italy, and her previous one was destroyed in a landslide at the Cappuccini Hotel at Amalfi, and she can't remember what she wrote. It's another layer of superficiality, trying to find local color without genuine inspiration.
It's performative writing, much like her performative radicalism. She's trying to capture the true Italy, but she's just accumulating anecdotes and observations without really connecting. And her whole thing about having 4 brothers, all university men, except one in the army, who talk to commercial travelers to broaden their ideas, it's so transparently an attempt to signal intellect and worldliness.
And the Miss Allens, always providing the delicious gossip and social commentary. Miss Allen's account of Mr. Emerson mentioning Miss Pole's stomach acidity, and Miss Lavish being positively attracted by his mentioning S because she liked plain speaking and meeting different grades of thought. It's all so wonderfully absurd. That sequence is gold. Miss Lavish, the intellectual, tries to prove that England rests on nothing but commerce, infuriating Teresa Allen, who points to the picture of Lord Tennyson as a computation, and Miss Lavish responds with, "Tut, the early Victorians." It just perfectly skewers the intellectual snobbery of the time.
And then Miss Lavish goes into the smoking room with the Emersons, expecting this deep, broadening conversation, and returns 5 minutes later to play patience with a green baize board. No one knows. No one will ever know. It's a hilarious anticlimax. It suggests that her performative intellectualism couldn't engage with true unconventional thought. She was out of her depth.
Exactly. Her different grades of thought were just a pose. She couldn't handle the Emersons' bluntness, their lack of social game playing. They probably just talked plainly, and she had no script for that. And Lucy, still trying to categorize. Mr. Beebe, old Mr. Emerson, is he nice or not nice? I do so want to know. She's still looking for an external judgment, rather than trusting her own feelings.
And Mr. Beebe's response. He laughed and suggested that she should settle the question for herself. It's a gentle nudge towards self-reliance, towards forming her own opinions. It's almost prophetic, given where Lucy ends up.
Miss Allen's indignation about the Emersons' behavior at Mr. Eager's lecture, and her sudden declaration, "No, I have quite changed. I do not like the Emersons. They are not nice." It highlights the fragility of these social alliances and how quickly perceived breaches of decorum can turn people against others. The whole business of the violets that Mr. Beebe hints at, which Miss Allen refuses to elaborate on because a pension is a bad place for gossips. It's so effective in creating this sense of unseen, unheard events that shape perceptions. It allows our imagination to fill in the gaps, probably with something far more scandalous than it actually was.
It underscores how much of their social world is built on rumor and perceived slights rather than actual substance. And Mr. Beebe notes that Miss Lavish represented intellect and the Miss Allens stood for good breeding, and both are now hostile. Only he remains friendly.
The Emersons are going under, having given up their attempt to conquer society. They're retreating, and Mr. Beebe feels almost a paternal impulse to plan some expedition, perhaps with Lucy well chaperoned, to be nice to them. Even he, with his supposed broad-mindedness, still thinks of Lucy needing chaperoning to be nice to them. And then Lucy decides she's going out alone, on the circular tram on the platform by the driver. This is a huge act of defiance for her. Perhaps I shall meet someone who reads me through and through. It's a desperate wish for connection and understanding.
I put it down to too much Beethoven, Mr. Beebe says, watching her go. It's a charmingly dismissive, but also deeply insightful comment. He understands that her music unleashes something in her that society finds difficult to contain.
And he's right, isn't he? Lucy never knew her desires so clearly as after music. She wants something big, and she believes it would come to her on that tram. The societal constraints, the unladylike labels are chafing her more than ever. This is the culmination of Florence, this sense of burgeoning self.
The contrast between Lucy's internal life, revealed through her music, and her external, repressed existence is so central. The music is her true voice, but she can't speak it.
So, moving into part 2, back in England at Windy Corner, the transformation that Florence begins is now put to the test in the familiar, suffocating environment of home. Lucy is engaged to Cecil Vyse, who is in many ways the epitome of the intellectual, refined, but utterly passionless English gentleman.
Cecil. Oh, Cecil. He's the anti-George, isn't he? He's all intellect and no heart. He's the kind of man who would appreciate the idea of a woman rather than the woman herself. He sees Lucy as a work of art.
He's a collector, not a lover. He loves her playing because it's beautiful, but he doesn't understand the raw passion behind it. He admires her, but he doesn't see her. He talks about her as if she's an object to be displayed in his well-appointed flat.
And he makes fun of her family, the way he describes Freddie and Mrs. Honeychurch and even Mr. Beebe with such sneering amusement. It immediately alienates him from Lucy's world, even though she tries to defend him.
He's such a snob, but he's also utterly oblivious to his own snobbery. He thinks he's being clever and witty. And Lucy, for a while, is caught up in the idea of being loved by such a superior man. She tries to convince herself she's happy.
The proposal scene in the 12th chapter is incredibly awkward. She says no multiple times, almost involuntarily, before she says yes. It's clearly not a yes born of genuine desire. It's a yes born of societal expectation and a desperate attempt to fit in, to be proper.
And his kiss. He did not even know how to kiss her. He had wished to seal their compact with a kiss, but she had not helped him, and on the contrary had hindered. It's so indicative of their lack of physical and emotional connection. There's no spark, no yes of the body or soul.
And then Mr. Beebe says that Cecil treats women as an altarpiece, and then he says of Lucy, she is an untrained soprano, and people will not know what to make of her. And if she ever takes to live as she plays, it will be very exciting, both for us and for her. He's still got her pegged. He knows Cecil is the wrong fit.
Mr. Beebe, for all his foibles, is often the most perceptive. He recognizes the artifice in Cecil and the suppressed passion in Lucy. He's an observer, and he sees the dissonance.
And then the Emersons arrive in Summer Street. Through some bizarre twist of fate, Cecil, in his misguided attempt to be broad-minded, rents them the cottage next door, Sissy Villa. He actually thinks it's a mark of his unconventionality.
Oh, the irony. Cecil, the intellectual, unwittingly brings the force that will shatter his carefully constructed engagement right to his doorstep. It's a testament to his complete lack of understanding of human nature, especially Lucy's.
He sees them as sociological curiosities, not as people with a profound impact on Lucy's life. He wants to observe them, perhaps even to patronize them, but not to engage with them as equals.
And the bathing scene, chapter 13. Freddie, Lucy's brother, invites George for a swim in the local pond. Freddie is so wonderfully uninhibited. And then Mr. Beebe, the clergyman, joins them, shedding his clothes and becoming an altogether new person, free and athletic.
This scene is so important for George and Lucy, and for Mr. Beebe. The nakedness, the splashing, the spontaneous joy. It's all so natural, so pagan, so un-English. And Lucy sees George in this state, free from the constraints of clothes and convention.
It's a moment of pure, unadulterated life. George's body, his physical presence, becomes undeniable to Lucy. She can't intellectualize it away. It's primal. And then she and Cecil walk into it.
And she sees them, standing wet and glistening in the sun. And Cecil,
who disliked the idea of bathing, as he disliked all ideas that were unscholarly, he immediately recoils. His reaction perfectly highlights the divide between his world and the Emerson's world of natural spontaneity.
And then the kiss in the woods, after Cecil has been so insufferable, reading from Miss Lavish's novel, which turns out to be about Lucy and Charlotte in Florence, no less, and George kisses Lucy. It's a sudden, violent, undeniable act of passion.
The kiss is brutal, almost. It's not romantic in the conventional sense. It's a shock to Lucy, a jolt, a physical manifestation of everything she's been suppressing. It rips through her carefully constructed composure.
The Disaster Within is the chapter title. It's not an external disaster. It's the internal earthquake that shatters her complacency. She can no longer ignore the truth of her own feelings.
And her immediate reaction is to try and lie to everyone. First to George, then to Cecil, then to her mother and Freddie. She tries to pretend it never happened, to shove it back into the fog of repression.
But she can't. The kiss has awakened something. She tries to rationalize it away, blames George, blames Miss Lavish. But the truth is, she felt something, and that feeling is what she's struggling with.
Miss Bartlett, of course, is horrified and immediately takes charge, trying to tidy up the messy situation, suggesting they leave immediately for Rome. She wants to control the narrative to ensure Lucy remains uncontaminated.
Charlotte's presence is always stifling. She's the embodiment of societal expectation, the voice that tells Lucy what is proper and what is not. She's horrified not by the kiss itself, but by the implications of the kiss, the breach of decorum.
And Lucy tries to lie to Cecil to maintain the facade of their engagement. But Cecil, in his own way, is also perceptive. He says, "I am not a Philistine, and I quite realize that the Emersons are not. But I am a prig, and you are a prig, and you are going to marry a prig." It's a moment of accidental, brutal honesty from Cecil.
He actually confesses to being a prig. It's surprising given his self-regard. But he's right about Lucy, too, at that point. She is being a prig, trying to force herself into a mold that doesn't fit.
And then Cecil tries to kiss her, and it's still all wrong. There's no feeling. She had an odd feeling that he was not kissing her, but an exemplar of the Italian Renaissance. He's still seeing her as an idea, not a person.
It highlights the absolute void of passion in their relationship. The contrast with George's impulsive, albeit violent, kiss is stark. One is intellectualized admiration. The other is raw, undeniable connection.
The lies pile up. Lucy tries to convince herself she doesn't care for George, that Cecil is the right choice. She's trying to fit herself back into the old pattern, but the threads are fraying.
And then Mr. Emerson confronts her. Chapter 19, Lying to Mr. Emerson. He tells her, "You love George. You love the boy, body and soul, and you and he will be joined together in the spiritual union of eternal love." He lays it all out, blunt and undeniable.
He sees through all her defenses, all her lies. He cuts directly to the core of her being, recognizing her love for George before she even fully admits it to herself. It's both terrifying and liberating for her.
And his argument about love, about life. If we are to have free souls, it is a choice not between God and the devil, but between God and the devil's children. It's a profound statement about choosing authentic life over false morality.
And he tells her about Miss Lavish and her novel, the scene where Miss Lavish tells him everything she observed about Lucy and George in Florence. It's so deliciously ironic that the local color box she wanted to escape now provides the ultimate truth that frees Lucy.
It's the ultimate betrayal in a way, but it's also the catalyst for Lucy's freedom. Miss Lavish's observations, intended to be literary fodder, become the undeniable proof of Lucy's feelings, shattering her self-deception.
And then, the end of the Middle Ages, the breaking of the engagement, the decision to marry George. It's presented as a triumph, a shedding of the old restrictive ways, an embrace of the new.
It's the triumph of passion over propriety, of authentic self over societal expectation. She chooses life. She chooses love. She chooses a room with a view in the truest sense.
But it's not a simple happy ending. She's alienated her mother, Miss Bartlett, and the respectable world. There's a cost to freedom.
Absolutely. Forster doesn't shy away from that. There's a recognition that choosing authenticity means stepping outside the comfort and acceptance of the conventional world.
And the final chapter, back in Florence, where it all began. Lucy and George finally in their room with a view, facing the Arno. It's cyclical, but it's transformed. They're together, embracing the view, embracing life.
And the slight melancholy that still lingers. Mr. Emerson's worry that George is still searching for something, that things won't fit. It's not a fairy tale. It's a realistic depiction of finding happiness, but acknowledging that life and love are still complex.
It's a very human ending. Not everything is perfectly resolved. The everlasting why still exists, but they found their yes.
I think what makes it so enduring is that Forster tackles these massive themes: freedom, authenticity, societal repression, love, within such a charming, witty, and seemingly light framework. It feels like a subtle revolution.
And the characters are so well drawn. Even the minor ones, like the Miss Allens or Miss Lavish, contribute to the richness of the world, highlighting the different facets of English society abroad.
I was particularly struck by the subtle evolution of Mr. Beebe, too. He starts as this amiable, observing clergyman, but by the end, he's almost a force working against Lucy's happiness, or at least against her unconventional choices. He sees the muddles that result from the Emerson's influence. He prefers Lucy as an untrained soprano, interesting to observe, not one who actually lives her music.
Yes, he's almost disappointed when she actually makes a choice, when she becomes less of a fascinating subject and more of a real messy person. He loses his specialty of studying maiden ladies. The intellectual observer prefers the static, the contained, not the dynamic, the unleashed. He says to Miss Catherine Allen that he likes Lucy because she reminds him of his sisters. He wants her to remain in that safe, unexciting category.
His observation that some people are born to love and some to observe is really about him. He's comfortable observing. He's uncomfortable with the raw, transformative power of genuine love and passion because it disrupts his carefully ordered world. It's a form of intellectual cowardice, actually.
It's a great counterpoint to Mr. Emerson's philosophy of embracing life and love. Beebe is detached. He's not against love in principle, but he's against its messy manifestation, especially in a young woman he knows. He represents a softer, more subtle form of English repression than Miss Bartlett.
And the way he dismisses the Emersons in the drawing room, despite his earlier understanding of their directness. He tries to introduce them to Bertolini society, but when it fails, he almost relishes their isolation. He's not actively cruel, but he's not actively supportive either, once they deviate too far from his intellectual categories.
That's why his "I put it down to too much Beethoven" remark is so telling. It's a casual dismissal, but it reduces Lucy's profound internal struggle and awakening to a mere artistic overindulgence. It trivializes her deepest desires.
It's almost a lament for the loss of the predictable, the manageable Lucy. He's intellectualizing her emotions, rather than acknowledging their depth.
And speaking of emotions, what about the power of place in this novel? Florence versus Surrey. The very air in Italy seems to liberate, to strip away the artifice, while England, specifically Surrey, reinforces it.
Florence is presented as a place of chaos and passion, dirt and beauty, where social rules are less rigid. It's where the true Italy can be found, not in Baedeker, but in unscripted experience. Surrey, and Windy Corner specifically, is the opposite: ordered, comfortable, safe, but ultimately stifling.
The view itself becomes symbolic, not just of physical sight, but of perspective. The Emersons offer a wider, more honest view of the world, stripped of Victorian sentimentality.
And the Arno, how it's described as gurgling against the embankment in the morning, and later, in the rain, lost its muddy solidity and began to twinkle.
It reflects the shifting perceptions and the dual nature of reality, the beautiful and the mundane. It's interesting how the natural world, the sun, the Arno, the cypresses of San Miniato, are often contrasted with the artificiality of the English pension or the stuffy English drawing room. Nature is the realm of truth and freedom.
The physical presence of Italy seems to demand a more tactile, sensory engagement, which is exactly what Lucy's English upbringing has denied her. She's trained to observe, to categorize, but not to feel.
And the importance of the body. The nude bathing scene, George's physical presence, even the kiss itself. Forster emphasizes the physical reality of human existence, often suppressed by the English gentry, as essential to a full life. It's a radical idea for its time.
The Victorian discomfort with the body is palpable throughout the first half of the book, especially in Charlotte. The thought of Mr. Emerson being in his bath is enough to utterly disarm her. It's a fear of anything that hints at the animalistic or uncontrolled.
And how that discomfort translates into Lucy's initial horror at George's kiss. It's not just the impropriety, it's the sheer physical force of it, the undeniable sensation that she hadn't been prepared for. It bypasses her intellect and strikes directly at her senses.
It's the antithesis of Cecil's intellectualized, bloodless kiss. George's kiss is messy, unexpected, and utterly real. It's a moment of truth, even if it's a shocking one.
So the novel isn't just about finding love, but about finding oneself through confronting societal norms, particularly those related to passion and authenticity. It's a journey of self-discovery, masked as a romantic comedy.
Precisely. And it's a testament to Forster's skill that he weaves these profound themes into a narrative that feels so accessible and engaging. He never preaches, but he makes you think.
And the humor. It's such a funny book, despite its serious undertones. The absurdities of the English abroad, Miss Lavish's pretensions, Cecil's ridiculousness, it all keeps it from becoming too heavy-handed.
The humor is a device, I think, to make the bitter pills of social critique more palatable. You laugh at the characters, but you also recognize the truth in their foibles.
That's a great point, Isaac. It allows him to critique without alienating his audience. It invites them in, rather than shutting them out.
It makes me think about how much of the English character Forster is dissecting here. The repressed emotions, the obsession with decorum, the inability to express genuine feeling without embarrassment. It's a quiet rebellion against the perceived stiffness of Edwardian England, filtered through the liberating chaos of Italy.
So as we wrap up, I'm curious, thinking about A Room with a View and this journey Lucy takes from conventionality to self-discovery, what part of the view that Forster offers do you think is most relevant for readers today? What insight still resonates, even with all the changes in our modern world?
For me, it's the insistence on genuine feeling and authentic living over curated appearances and inherited rules. Even now, with all our supposed freedom, we're still bombarded with pressures to conform, to present a certain image. Lucy's struggle to embrace her own yes is absolutely timeless. It's about not letting the world muddle your own truth.
I'd say it's the warning against intellectual snobbery and the dangers of reducing people to categories or ideas, rather than seeing them as complex individuals. Cecil, Miss Lavish, even Mr. Beebe at times, all do it. The Emersons, for all their bluntness, try to see people as they truly are, and that's still a rare and valuable thing. And on that note, if you've enjoyed dissecting this view with us, remember to hit that subscribe button. You wouldn't want to miss our next dive into literary landscapes, would you?
Excellent points, both. And to our listeners, what do you make of Mr. Beebe's arc in the novel? Does he remain a benevolent observer, or does his detachment ultimately make him complicit in the very repression Lucy is trying to escape? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you. That's all for this episode of the AAI Common Room. Join us next time for another casual, but always stimulating literary discussion.